You spend your life avoiding pain. You call it failure, loss, or divine displeasure. Yet every attempt to escape it only leads to deeper confusion. Abdul Al Qadar al-Jilani questioned this habit. He said pain is not a mark of distance from God, but the process through which the heart returns to Him. Pain, in his view, is the divine act of cleansing awareness from illusion. The very experience you call misfortune may be the moment when truth becomes visible. What if what you resist as harm is actually correction? What if the discomfort you flee is not punishment, but purification? The quiet work of removing what cannot remain in the presence of truth. And if that is so, what exactly is being purified? Abdul Al Qadar lived in 12th century Baghdad, a period of legal scholarship and spiritual searching. Trained as a jurist, he mastered the precision of law and the discipline of theology. Yet beneath that order, he sought something deeper, direct awareness of the divine. His teaching joined clarity of intellect with surrender of will. He did not call for withdrawal from life, but for purification within it. To him, pain was not a curse, but a classroom, the evidence that the heart was being refined. Where others saw misfortune, he saw the subtle hand of mercy performing its hidden work. You are taught to treat pain as a sign of error. When life feels smooth, you say you are blessed. When it hurts, you assume something is wrong. This pattern builds an unquestioned faith in comfort. But Abdul Al Qadar warned that comfort can conceal illusion. You protect what feels stable, even when that stability is ignorance. Avoidance becomes the shield of the ego, not protection from pain, but preservation of blindness. The self defends its continuity at all costs. Yet the more you resist discomfort, the more tightly illusion holds you. If your peace depends on denying reality, what kind of peace can it be? In Abdul Al Qadar's teaching, purification is not about erasing imperfection. It is about transforming the one who perceives it. Pain does not destroy you. It dismantles what you mistake for yourself. It reveals the limits of attachment and dependence. When you see pain not as interference but as reflection, perception begins to shift. The discomfort you feel becomes an unveiling of what stands between you and clarity. To purify the heart is not to remove difficulty, but to perceive without distortion. Pain ends when resistance ends. If the purpose of purification is to restore awareness to its natural clarity, then is pain not the instrument of that return? Pain interrupts continuity. It stops the flow of self-explanation. The mind, used to defining and defending itself, suddenly finds no ground to stand on. Abdul Al Qadar said that this interruption is divine mercy disguised as disturbance. It breaks the illusion of control and directs awareness back to its source. When pleasure rules, you expand into indulgence. When pain comes, you contract into reflection. The contraction feels like loss, but it is actually precision, the narrowing of attention to what is essential. Pain is the reminder that the self cannot own what belongs to God. It returns consciousness to its rightful humility. If pain restores proportion to awareness, can it truly be called cruelty? You resist what you do not understand. Pain challenges your authority, and so you fight it. But Abdul Al Qadar describes surrender not as submission, but as intelligence. The awareness that control was never yours. To surrender is not to collapse, but to cooperate with the truth. When you stop dividing experiences into good or bad, you begin to learn directly from what is. Pain loses its hostility and becomes a teacher. The heart, freed from judgment, starts to recognize patterns where it once saw chaos. But if surrender turns pain into understanding, why does the mind still insist that safety lies in resistance? Every form of pain exposes the fragile structure of I. You say, I suffer. Yet what is this I that claims ownership of pain? Abdul Al Qadar said that purification begins when this claim dissolves. The one who suffers fades as awareness recognizes itself apart from identity. What remains is a witnessing that does not struggle because it has nothing to defend. Pain strips away everything that cannot belong to truth. When the self no longer seeks to be preserved, pain loses its center. What you called suffering was the friction between illusion and reality. When the illusion ends, only the reality remains. If the self disappears, who is left to be hurt? For Abdul Al Qadar, pain was not contradiction, but communication, the language of mercy spoken through correction. The heart that ignores truth in comfort is compelled to see it through difficulty. Mercy does not always soothe. Sometimes it sharpens. It removes dependency on what cannot last. When attachment collapses, what remains is reliance on what is real. Pain, therefore, becomes the proof of divine attention, not its absence. It refines understanding until gratitude replaces blame. What once felt like punishment begins to appear as protection. If mercy can approach you in the form of discomfort, can you still judge its appearance by feeling alone? As understanding matures, pain changes its meaning. The event itself does not alter. Only perception evolves. What was once resistance becomes recognition. Abdul Al Qadar said that clarity arises when the heart ceases to argue with what is. Then, reality no longer appears divided into gain and loss. Every experience becomes transparent, neither pleasure nor pain, but revelation. The mind, freed from preference, begins to see how every event points back to its source. In that awareness, suffering ends not because circumstances change, but because division ends. When the purifier and the purified are recognized as one, what remains to purify? When purification is complete, nothing new is gained. Only illusion is removed. Pain was never an intruder. It was the hand of wisdom restoring order. Abdul Al Qadar's hidden practice is to meet every discomfort with inquiry instead of rejection. The purified heart no longer divides experience into joy or sorrow. It no longer asks, "Why did this happen to me?" It simply observes, "This is what truth requires now." Pain loses its authority because the one who suffers is gone. Awareness remains, quiet, whole, untouched. You began by asking why pain exists. Now you see that pain never existed apart from the movement toward clarity itself. What, then, is left to resist? The journey began with fear of pain and ended in recognition that pain is the refinement of perception. Abdul Al Qadar revealed that what you call suffering is the dismantling of illusion, the removal of all that hides the heart's natural awareness. Every stage, avoidance, surrender, dissolution, mercy, and clarity, exposes one truth. That pain is not destruction, but revelation. The purified heart does not become pure. It simply ceases to conceal what was pure all along. What remains is not emotion, but understanding, the still recognition that nothing real was ever wounded.